Yeah. Man, forget this job, dog. Yeah. Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear. First thing I'ma drink is a Rainier beer. I ain't no lush, shut up.
Hello, it's Adam Morrison. When it comes to top-tier contracting, my go-to choice is McGillivray Environmental. I know a thing or two about excellence, and that's exactly what you'll find with Kip McGillivray and his team. They're not just any contractor, they're the best in Spokane and North Idaho. From start to finish, they ensure your project is completed with the highest quality results. With years of experience and expertise, they handle it all. New construction, meticulous repairs, asphalt paving for residential and commercial properties, excavation, and even environmental remediation. So why wait? Reach out to Kip McGillivray Environmental today by calling 208-556-6384 for your free estimate. Don't forget to mention my name, Adam Morrison, and experience the difference McGillivray Environmental brings to the table. Again, that's 208-556-6384, McGillivray Environmental. My number one choice for all my contracting needs. The Perimeter with Adam Morrison is proudly sponsored by New Love Coffee, serving exceptional coffee while supporting Gonzaga athletics through their partnership with the Zags Collective. New Love Coffee is a specialty coffee company with 3 locations in Kennedy Yards, North Spokane, and Liberty Lake, Washington, offering crafted coffee beverages, tea, and delicious hand pies from Bean and Pie. Committed to quality, all their coffee is single origin and freshly roasted at the original Liberty Lake location. Here's the exciting part. You can now order their freshly roasted coffee online, with every purchase supporting the Zags Collective's mission to uplift Gonzaga student athletes. Try their half decaf blend, a perfect combination of medium roasted decaf and light roasted African coffee. Ideal for espresso, pour over, or cold brew at home. Coffee ships fresh every Thursday, so place your order today at newlovecoffee and zagscollective.com. And feel your mornings while making a difference for the Zags.
The podcast intro song is Get Up by Jinx Universe. Listen to his music on Spotify and follow him on social media at I am Jinx Universe.
Yeah. Man, forget this job, dog. Yeah. Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear. First thing I'ma
Welcome to The Perimeter, Season 4, Episode 6, presented by McGillivray Environmental, sponsored by Idaho Central Credit Union and New Love Coffee. Just got back from a road trip yesterday, San Diego State. What a fantastic win for this club. I know San Diego State's not in the top 25, but they've won the last 2 against us, took us to the woodshed last year in the kennel, which I think a lot of people kind of forgot about, kind of pushed us around and took us out of our game. And then we played there in 17 when I was a GA, and that was a similar outcome. We beat just by 20. I know that's a whole different club and personnel, but it was a little bit worrisome going into that atmosphere just because we haven't played a true road game. I know we have a lot of experience, but you never know until you get a certain club and personnel into that environment. It wasn't as loud as I thought, and that partly due because of how well our guys played, especially early. They have a great student section, a little bit vulgar, which I like, and I mean that in a good way. It's just not, it's like some of the, over the top, like, I hate the word PC because sometimes that gets construed with other things, but sometimes it's like, okay, you can yell air ball and you know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's certain things that it's okay to say. But it was just a fantastic, beginning to the game. I thought our energy was terrific. We started out 5-0 on fouls, and I was a little bit concerned that could have been an issue. But if you looked at the total context of the game, but especially early, we were trying to set a physical tone. And like I said earlier, they were absolutely way more physical than us the year prior in the kennel. And if people remember that game, it was just like a slow down, drag out, and we just got pushed around and out rebounded. And that's kind of how San Diego State wants to play. They play a little bit slower. It's not brutally slow like a St. Mary's, but it's, hey, let's score in the 70s. We'll get to the 80s if we need to, but we like, high 60, low 70s, and we're going to kind of kick your ass and push you around. Yeah. And our guys were trying to set the tone. Graham EK picked up I thought the first one was a bad call. The second one was a dumb foul, but he picks up his first 2 in minute 35. And so you see Braden Huff obviously coming in at the 18:35 mark. And I thought he performed brilliantly in the first half. Had 10 points. Again, they went to him right away on the low block. Was in a great rhythm, scored the basketball. I just can't say enough about how well that kid has developed over the last year 3 redshirt, right? Yeah, It's his year 3, just on his patience and his ability to handle physicality inside. I talked about it last episode. Lefties, I think it's just hard to guard. It's different. And usually left-handed players are better with their offhand because it's a right-handed world than opposite. I know that sounds funny, but like every lefty I've ever played with is usually better with their offhand just because they kind of have to when you're growing up.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like baseball and whatever. So he kind of settled everything down as far as a post presence situation. And that's always been a big part of our style of play is a post presence. If you look in the last, let's go 10 years, I mean, Shimmy, Zebo, BC, Brewy. I mean, I know the BC and Brewy were not strictly back the basket, but they kind of were. Trusev, obviously Drew Timmy, you know what I mean? And now Graham EK, Braden, like it's part of how we've been successful in maintaining an offensive style where it makes it tough for teams to guard us certain ways. And so having a Braden is what I'm trying to get to, be able to come off the bench and perform right away and score right away and have the same look as Graham. I know they're different players, but they're lefties and they're just a little bit about the same height. You know what I mean? They kind of have the similar game. They can make a 12-foot jump hook. I think Braden's got better touch. Graham's a better more physical presence, but you kind of have a little bit of mixture of each. Just gives you such a luxury. Like, can you imagine, 5 years ago or whatever, or the years when it was just kind of Drew as the inside scoring presence, if he picked up 2 fouls early, you'd kind of be like, oh God, let's just get through the first half and figure this out. It's not that big of an issue anymore. Not that we want Graham to go out there and pick up fouls.
Right.
But I thought Braden was absolutely terrific in that first half. Overall, our pace was great. Nolan wasn't shooting the basketball well in the first half, didn't have a great game. But I think Nemhard really paced us from just a floor game perspective. Khalif battle wasn't great in the first half. But I thought, like I said, Braden, Dusty was good. And if you look at Dusty's line, he has 3 points, but he plays 26 minutes. He has 6 rebounds. He wasn't getting 6 rebounds last year.
No.
Okay. And then if you just watch defensively, if you remember last year, like right when he was subbed in or was starting, teams would go at him right away, like make a purpose of it to post him up or try to get an ISO. They're not doing that anymore because he's shown defensively that he's a lot better and a lot tougher. And so when I say, if you look at his line, it's not always the point. Excuse me, I'm trying to fight off a sneeze here. That's why I keep doing that. He's obviously gotten stronger, but he's fighting through a lot of more physicality. And so when I watched the totality of his game, I looked down, I was like, oh, he only took 2 shots, but I'm like, he was out there for 27 minutes because he was effective defensively. He took Bird out of the game. The lefty kid that came off the bench last year was averaging 20 for San Diego State, took him out of the game when he got matched up. Yeah. So I thought he was terrific off the bench. Inocente, we got to give him some credit. I know he played 3 minutes, but he played like few. He put him in right at the end of the half. Yeah. And that's a weird spot to be in as a player when you're dead ass cold. I don't care what anybody says. It's hard when you you haven't got into the normal rotation and then they're just like, go in. Like, it's harder than people think because your body, like, it's a zap. You know what I mean? It's hard not to have an adrenaline dump and then kind of feel weird. You have to get yourself warmed up right away. So you have to sprint down. First 2 times you look kind of funny when you're just as running as fast as you can, but it's like an old, it's not old, but NBA trick. Like a lot of vets are like, yeah, when you first check in, if you're coming off the bench, like just run as fast as you can down the floor, even if it doesn't make sense, offense or defense, just get yourself going. It's true.
Yeah.
I thought he was terrific, was battling, didn't attempt a field goal attempt. But my point is like the depth of this team in a first half where we weren't really rolling offensively. We shoot 41%, 12 of 29, 4-11 from 3. And we're up 9 on the road. That's what's it can be scary for this club in terms of other teams playing against us, because we weren't our best, or theoretically our best inside presence. Preseason third-team All-American is on the bench. Our guy that comes off the bench, sure, I'll give you 10 real quick. Nolan Hickman didn't shoot it well. Khalif Battle didn't shoot it well. Nemhard was about the only guard on the perimeter that was playing good in the first half. But we're fine.
Yeah.
So I was really pleased with just the physicality and effort. And that was a big talking point, listening to, going to the team breakfast and then going to the team meal. I knew that was going to be part of the plan, but obviously hearing it, it was, hey, we're not getting punked tonight. All else fails, like if they beat us on skill or whatever, but we're not getting shoved around. And our guys were definitely ready for it. So I thought going into the first half, going into the second half after the first half, really pleased. Obviously being up 9 makes that a lot easier, but like just the physicality where we were on the glass, I think we were +3, which was terrific. A team like that, you don't have to like take them to the woodshed, but you can't get punked. I was just really pleased with our first half deal. And I thought the officiating kind of calmed down because it was 5-0 at the start, like I said. And some of them were fouls, but I mean, some of it was like, oh, God, we're going to get railroaded here on the road. But I thought it kind of evened out, and it ended up being 10-11 fouls in the first half. So it obviously evened out, but we took their big kid out of the game, Guath. Defensively, he had 5 blocks, but that's about all he did. He was 7 foot. He kind of looks like Chet. Perimeter guy. Chet's way better. No offense to that kid, but at the time, you know what I mean? Like Chet's playing in the league, averaging 20, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it's could play. But I thought just overall our first half was terrific, and going in that second half, I felt really good about where we were. I knew we were going to shoot the ball a little bit better, or have at least a better game plan as far as getting better shots. But you also knew if this game's in the mid 80s, we should probably win. You know what I mean? So being at 40 was like, okay, we're on pace. We don't want to be in the 60s. Like I said, high 60s, low 70s. That's what they would prefer. Right. Obviously, we're averaging 100 points, but
that's hard to do.
It's hard to do. Exactly. Yeah. And no offense to UMass Lowell, but that was kind of they ran into a buzzsaw offense. You know what I mean? Like that's a good basketball team too. So coming into the second half, I was curious to see how Graham was going to respond, because he hasn't played bad, but he hadn't had a really good game yet. You know what I mean? He's played short minutes. The Arizona State game, he played 13, I believe, and because Braden was rolling. And Graham's a team guy, didn't complain, but it's like senior year, man. Like, you better get it rolling. Doesn't mean you have to go out and force stuff, but if you're not rolling, this kid's behind you, and that's not a knock, but it's just the truth. And if you're on good basketball teams, you understand that. But he was absolutely terrific in the second half, especially early. I think that he scored the first 6 points, and ended up, 7 of 9, 9-11 from the free throw line, had 23 points, 9 rebounds, really took that Guath kid out of the game. Got him in foul trouble the first 2 possessions. First possession, he gets his 3rd foul, and then later on he gets his 4th, has to go. And reason why I mention it, just having a 7-1 guy behind that can block shots just changes your mentality defensively, or what you can do. And so for San Diego State, that means you can't ice screens as much. That means send everything down to your big, and it just changes kind of what you do defensively. So I thought Graham was terrific, getting low block touches. He's his best when he's kind of cussing at guys and yelling at the bench, and he was doing that. I was like, oh, all right, nice, Graham. It's good to have you back. You know what I mean? Like, he's a guy that's his best when he's kind of on the teeter and on the edge, and I mean that in a good way, but where he's like close to getting a technical and he's talking to guys and maybe throwing a little elbows and stuff like that. And he was doing that, and he was getting into it, and Ryan and Graham on the pick and roll, like it was Ryan with Braden against Arizona State, they were just extremely effective. And Ryan did such a good job of controlling the pace, especially in the second half. I think he's at, 40? I think it's 40 something assists, 40, I think, and 8 turnovers on the year.
Wow. Yeah.
Which is insane if you really think about it through 4 games. So he's obviously averaging 10 assists.
Yeah.
So he has a 5-to-1 turnover ratio. And if, the casual fan listening, what you always look for in a guard on a long-term season, I know it's a shorter sample size, but we've played good teams. It's not like we're getting, he's getting 12 assists against, Sisters of the Poor or whatever. He's 5-to-1 is terrific. If you get 2-to-1, it's a great season. 2 assists to every turnover. And especially with the ball being in his hand as much as it is, it's not like he's a guy that, taking half the ball screens. So like, what I'm getting at, like if you look at somebody's numbers, I think like let's just use like LeBron. Like sometimes the knock is like, well, he is the all-time leader in turnovers or whatever. It's like, yeah, because the ball's in his hands for, you know what I mean?
Right,
like,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
just going to happen. It's just like, Peyton Manning throwing a lot of interceptions or Brett Favre is like, well, they threw a shit ton too, as they had to, right?
Right.
So it's going to happen. Law of averages. So my point is like to only have 8 turnovers against an Arizona State, a Baylor, a UMass Lowell who got picked to finish first in the league, probably has a chance to make the NCAA tournament. No joke. Like we're not just saying that. And then obviously play San Diego State team. It's a really good start to this senior campaign. Couldn't be more impressed with how he was in the second half. Like I said, control the pace, scored down the stretch, ends up going 5 for 12, didn't shoot it great, only 1 for 5 from 3, but the 8 from 8 from the free throw line. He mixes in 4 rebounds, drew 5 fouls, 10 assists, only 3 turnovers. He's played as good as any one of our guards has in a long time, and that's a huge compliment because we've always had good guard play.
Yeah.
He broke the single season record in assists last year, and he's on pace to do it again, which is a crazy number too. If you look at, again, the guard play, obviously Stocks.
Oh man. Yeah. I was going to say, we're going to have to track that.
Yeah. Obviously John's on a different stratosphere.
Right.
They tracked assists different. I got to throw that out there. That's not a knock on anybody, but back then, like a guy couldn't take a dribble and, well, that wasn't an assist. You know what I mean? Like it's a little bit different now. It's how it should be. Like if I throw it to a guy and he takes 2 dribbles, but it's the pass leading for a bucket, that's assist.
Yeah.
But, Nemhard has been just terrific. I mean, it's such a luxury to have a guy that's always under control that, can handle pressure, makes all the right reads in the ball screens, capable 3-point shooter, capable scorer, but not always looking for it, trying to set other guys up. Him and Graham basically won the game for us in the second half. They had 32 out of our 40 second half points. That was kind of a stat that I don't think was talked about enough.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was terrific. Ben Gregg, God bless him, had a great game off the bench. He needed one of those too. Had his, I think he's his best when he's flexing and talking shit and, like doing the, all the pretty boy stuff. And I mean that in a nice way, but like, that's what he is in a good way. Like he's a hustle guy, but like get your smile going and get everybody going. You know what I mean? And so he had that weak side rebound where we had our 3rd offensive rebound in a possession. He's getting absolutely hammered, gets the and one, gets everybody going. That was a huge play.
That was, yeah.
Because San Diego State was making a little bit of run, trying to get back into the basketball game. He needed that game. Graham needed that game. Obviously, Nemhard's been terrific. And I talked about Braden in the first half. That's how deadly we are. Barely plays in the second half because Graham's rolling, has 0 points. That's not a knock. But like they just 1-2 punched it from a big perspective. You do 33 points, 13 rebounds from your 2 bigs, and extremely efficient. You're going to be pretty good, right? So I couldn't be more happier with this club, especially on the road. We win the rebounding battle +6. Don't shoot it great from 3. 5 of 20, obviously not great at all, but win the free throw battle 27 of 31. +14 to San Diego State. It goes 13 and 18. I don't think we got like a over the top whistle, but but we were the more aggressive team, and that happens. And then late game too, sometimes those free throw lines or the free throw discrepancy looks more you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
When they're trying to come back and sometimes you sneak 6 more in there and it's like, well, it wasn't that big of a discrepancy.
It wasn't,
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Obviously true road game win. You have a lot of your perimeter guys don't play good, Nolan.
The Perimeter will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Sound good? Thank you. Yes.
What a great, obviously true road game win. You have a lot of your perimeter guys don't play good. Nolan didn't play great, 2 for 8. He's been great all season. Khalif Battle's been absolutely terrific all season. Goes 1 for 5, foul trouble, kind of was forcing the issue. Mike Ajayi wasn't great, 2 for 7, right?
Yeah.
And you get a win that you're 13, and you kind of just play at your pace, even though it wasn't as fast, but you're not going to get in the hundreds. And you control the free throw line, you control the glass, and you take care of the basketball. You have 14 assists. We've been in the 20s, but again, a really good defensive team, and we only have 8 turnovers. Again, under 10, which is what you're always looking for. And we don't let their guys get going. Miles Bird, we talked about him, was a 20-point game scorer. Killed us last year off the bench, lefty from Stockton. 0 for 5, 0 for 4 from 3, 0 points. Guath, the big 7'2" kid, highly touted, 0 for 5, 0 points. The only kid that really had a good game I was really impressed was their lefty point guard, Nick Boyd. Was terrific at 23 and 9, 9 rebounds, 6 of 10, but got a lot from the free throw line. But he was a good player. He's hard for us to stop in the pick and roll action stuff. But I mean, this team's good, man. And again, it's not just us pumping the podcast. Like, I've obviously seen a lot of these teams and watched them, and this is one that's as deep as we've been, and that's flowing right away. Obviously, you don't want to peak too early, but I think that's going to be a misnomer too. A little bit. You want to be playing good basketball throughout the season. You're going to have lulls. But I just like the vibe of this crew. I like the camaraderie stuff. I know it's cliche, but you watch other good teams or guys are, like Graham could easily went in the tank when he gets his first 2, and then Braden's rolling, and it's, fuck this. Not outward, but it's just natural.
Yeah.
Hung with it, and then had a great second half, and then they, like I said, they flip positions basically as far as playing time, and you don't see anybody pouting or nothing.
No, yeah.
It's true. I mean, it is. It's unbelievable. It's fun to watch, and it's fun to be around. And like I said, Chente gives you some minutes. I know it sounds funny, but like that's a welcoming sign. Like, he can go into a game and be completely fine. So down the stretch, if there's an injury, knock on wood, it doesn't happen, or somebody's not playing good, okay, he can go in and function. You know what I mean? So I was just really impressed with this club, and it was nice to watch a kind of crowd silencing performance and kind of, reestablish that against the San Diego State team that we can play physical and tough. And it's obviously interesting because we're going to be playing them forever.
Yeah.
In the Pac-12.
Right. Yeah.
So that it's going to be, I think that is going to turn into a nice little rivalry. Because they draw pretty good for San Diego. And I know that sounds funny, but like, it's hard to draw in sports teams in San Diego. There's so much shit to do. And it's kind of a transplant city. And
they have so much going on there, but they don't have a basketball team. So it's like, so I feel like they might be the basketball team there, right?
Yes. But also, like, a lot of people like transplant to San Diego, you know what I mean? So like, I didn't go to San Diego State, you know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, it's 75 out. Like, we really want to go to a college basketball game?
No shit.
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely, yeah.
You're just kind of like, let's just go to dinner and then watch it on TV. You know what I mean? Like, that's the reality. That's why the Chargers left, part of the reason.
Right, yeah, for
you
sure.
know what I mean? So anyway, I was impressed with our guys, and, it was fun to watch Graham have a good game. Ben Gregg have a good game. Kind of get back to, hey, you guys are terrific players. Not that they were lacking in confidence, but you need to have one of those. And Ben had a, like when he's flexing and doing the head tap and all that shit, like that's what he does.
Yeah. I feel like Ben's role kind of is coming off the bench and making a difference like that. Like, sure,
same here. He
probably deserves to start, but like I feel like this. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Like, is there going to be a set starting lineup? I honestly don't know. Is it like
I think the 3 guards are locked.
Yeah,
and I think that's your best lineup, and because Nolan's been shooting the piss out of it recently, and Khalif has been terrific, but they just didn't have good games. But they've been absolutely terrific, and we just talked about Nemhard.
Yeah,
I think you could maybe mix in Ajayi for Ben, but I think Mike gives you just body type, gives you more defensively, and that's not a knock on Ben. Not that Ben can't guard, but Mike's just a different animal as far as length and athleticism. But also Ben is a better shooter. They're both scrappy as far as getting rebounds and stuff. But I think Ben gives us a better lift off the bench, and like I said, when he's flexing and doing all that stuff, it gets everybody hyped, you know what I mean? And that's kind of his role. So it was good to see him have that type of play. I mean, because of the Baylor game, he had those in the first half, remember? And he's yelling at the fans, and everybody loves that shit, and it gets you hyped as a team.
It does, yeah.
And so he had that, and he wasn't looking over at the sidelines and worried about coming out. And so, again, super impressed. Our splits at the end of the game, we shoot total 42, which isn't great, but it was a good it may sound funny, but like an efficient 42, like grind out 42. Terrible from the free throw or 3-point line, 5 of 20, but go 27 of 31, 87% as a club from the free throw line, which is terrific. And then, like I said, the +6 on the glass is a huge number against a, touted, we're tougher than you. We're going to kick your ass type of club. And our guys met that and did a good job of responding to the officiating early as well. So
they've been there was a stat saying that they have been a top 50 KenPom defensive team
for 13 out of 14 years.
Yeah,
they're top 11 the last 6, I think, what Huddy was saying on the broadcast. So yeah, they did. You got to play. Going in that it's going to be a knockdown drag out, and they kind of play physical on purpose where they make the officials, God, I have to call a hand check again. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like the old Patrick Ewing. It is going way back, but Patrick Ewing at Georgetown, like John Thompson would tell him just to block everything, even if it was obvious goaltending. He said refs just got tired of calling it. So he would just, even like jumpers, if you watch old when he was in the 2-3, just after a while, they're just like, fuck, I can't call it every time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's the same thing. Like, hey, this is how we play. We get over screens and stuff like that. And a lot of times the refs are like, yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm not going to call it. So I was just really impressed. And this team's got a chance to be terrific. We're going to go to, we play Long Beach tonight, which is a quick turnaround Wednesday. But going into Atlantis, we're going to feel really good. And then we got, a nice little kind of gauntlet coming up. And Kentucky, who's, I think, surprised people. Mark Pope, we have some familiarity with him for coming from BYU, which I thought was not a head scratcher hire, because he's obviously won. It was how do I just say it? Surprising considering the other candidates that were thrown out there. He knows what he's doing, but I thought a lot of people thought a bigger name, and that's not a knock, but a splashier name. And I think there was like, no, let's just get a guy that's a mature and just coaches college basketball, and so they look terrific. They beat Duke, who's terrific. And then obviously UConn is UConn. Yeah. And playing in Madison Square, that's going to be a tough, that's a road game. I don't care if it's not in stores or whatever where the hell Connecticut's at, but
looking really, really, not too far ahead, but like someone mentioned that after the game on CBS, they said that there's a potential matchup of a 1-2 of Gonzaga, UConn, if everything kind of plays out the way it's playing out, which would be at Madison Square, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Yeah, it'll be cool. And I think this San Diego State win is Huddy says it, and it's true. A win that will keep on giving. I think they're going to be an NCAA tournament team.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you really look at it, we have 3 of 4, knock on wood, NCAA tournament wins. In theory, I think Arizona State has a chance.
Yeah.
And then I talked about UMass Lowell. I know that sounds funny, but they got picked to finish in their league, and they went to their league championship game 3 of the last 4 years, just haven't beat Vermont at Vermont. So they're good.
Yeah.
So like, we theoretically might have 4 like NCAA tournament win teams already in the books. So like, resume wise, this is going to be a great win looking down the road, because San Diego State's going to play good basketball and get it figured out. They have a good lineup.
Yeah.
Good bigs and all that stuff. So
it was Graham Ike's first ever win against San Diego State.
That's it. Yeah, because he played at Wyoming. And, the old Mountain West stuff. So yeah, I think we're going to talk about, like I said, we're going down the road. Next episode, in the one prior or next, we'll talk about Battle for Atlantis. I'll do the breakdown of those games, and then I'll talk about UK and UConn and stuff like that. But I think we need to talk about like which players most impressed with, kind of who's looked great, who's looked good, who's there's no disappointments, and I mean that.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest surprise for me, not surprise, but kind of a slow clap on being ready to go, is Khalif Battle right away, just fitting in. I was curious to see how he would fit in with the 2 other guards. And then obviously at the start, Nolan came off the bench that one exhibition game, and I think that woke him up. But there was some float that he was going to be coming off the bench. And I was kind of like, this didn't make me feel good. I was like, Nolan's been here. You know what I mean? Like, he's been through the battles and been through the, friendly criticism from fans and stuff like that. And he's battled through that stuff and played terrific and had huge games for us. But Khalif has done a good job of giving us a different look off our physicality wise on the perimeter. Obviously, he can stretch the floor from 3, but he gives us that bigger guard that we haven't had in a while, like big wing that can kind of like play a 1, but also would, if he gets switched on a 4, is not going to kill you. And then it's a matchup problem for other smaller wings. His splits are terrific right now. He's shooting 48%, 16 of 33, averaging 27 minutes. 11 of 20, obviously 55% from 3, and then perfect 14 for 14 from the free throw line, and averaging 4.5 rebounds. So I think he's been a pleasant surprise. Not that he wasn't a good player. He has 1,300 points collegiately. So we knew just how he's going to fit in. Yeah. And so I've been really impressed. He's had some great moments already. The Arizona State lob dunk. Yeah, he had the lob or the windmill the other night. I can't remember which game that was. I think the UMass Lowell, we had the breakaway. And then in the first game against Baylor, obviously we were killing him, but he made 3 threes in 65 seconds. That got everybody going. It's like, okay, now he's a Zag, and early on, new players need that moment because we're not a brutal, fan base, but like, there's been a lot of good players, and if you're coming in and taking minutes, like people are gonna be like, okay, is he good? You know what I mean? And so that kind of washed that question away real quick and makes it a lot easier. Obviously, Braden has been terrific. I've been pounding the table for the last 2 years. Needs to play more. And he's been, as good as advertised, in my opinion. I mean, he's shooting almost 58%. He's playing 19 minutes a game, 2 for 7 from 3. I know that's nothing to, go crazy over, but he's shown that he can make that 3, hit 2 in the first half against San Diego State. And that pick and pop stuff makes a big difference because, for a while we're always a pick and dive, short roll guy, and it's not easy to cover, but it's shell drill stuff. But if you have a pop, now you have to stretch. Your weak side guy has to come over and tag. And then if you have a guy in the corner, which you will, now it's pick your poison. It's either swing, or skip. It's shooter. Yeah. And so it just stretches your defense. And then, okay, if you get into a drop coverage with your big and he's playing towards Braden, Nemhard, Hickman can come off and go lay it up. You know what I'm saying? Or they get that step. And Nemhard showed it. He made I think 3 8-footers where he just shouldered a guy and put it off the glass.
Yeah.
So having that ability just really makes it difficult for teams to cover. Braden's been terrific. Talked about it. Graham, his splits look good as well. 57%, 18 to 25 from free throw line, 72%, which is great for him. He struggled a little bit in the past on free throw shooting. It's not terrible, but it's always, okay. You know what I mean? Like, and that helps him keep him on the floor. 6.5 rebounds a game, 14.5 points, playing actually less minutes than Braden. It's kind of crazy, only 17.5. So he's been terrific. Nemhard splits are worldly. You know what I mean? He's shooting 45%, which is great. 41 from 3, which is completely perfect. In the 40s is always good, especially on volume. 18 to 21, 85% from the free throw line. Mixing in 3 rebounds, that's nothing to scoff at.
Yeah.
But the 40 assists, only 5 turnovers. Excuse me.
Yeah.
5 turnovers.
Yeah.
So he's 8 to 1, not 5 to 1. Wow. Almost 13 points a game. He's had the best start to the season, in my opinion, overall, just on the floor game, being under control, just everything you want out of a point guard. He's exactly like his brother, just 2 inches shorter. It's crazy.
It is, yeah.
It just really is. If you look back at Andrew's games, and I think Andrew wasn't asked as much as Ryan was last year to score. Like every time I watched Andrew, like, he played 38 minutes, and you're like, he had 12 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, and he shot like 6 for 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was always just like, he didn't like blow the world on fire, but like he never made a mistake off the ball screen stuff. If you wanted him to score, he had the ability. He never got cooked defensively. And that's why he got, the largest second round draft pick guaranteed contract right away, because it was like, this is an NBA player. And so Ryan just has that calming effect on everybody around him. As a coach, it's just so much easier if you're getting pressed, throw it to him, get out of the way. Or if it's going crazy, he's going to slow everybody down. Okay, let's run a ball screen action. I'm going to make the right read. Last year, he was pressing too quick, too early.
Yeah.
And I think that was a little bit of, just transferred. My brother played here. Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of that.
And he was shooting, I feel like he was shooting a lot more, like a lot more threes.
He was shooting a lot more, and he wasn't shooting a great number. And then he slowed himself down. He started taking better shots. And then he had a great second half of the season. But the first half, you're like, you could see it, but it's like, you got to make more shots if you're going to take those.
Yeah.
And he just refocused his game and has been absolutely terrific. Nolan's been great. I mean, if you look at his splits too, if you're going 18 to 36, that's obviously 50%. 8 to 20 from 3, that's 40. Mixing in 4 rebounds a game, averaging almost 12. I think he's slowed down a little bit as far as his shot selection. He's starting to make that floater this year.
The floater in the San Diego State game was amazing.
I know. He's made like 4, 5, 6 of those on the baseline, those 8-foot to 10-foot ones. Those are hard shots, and people don't realize how difficult those are. And they look really shitty if you miss them. Yeah. They look like a bad shot. And I used to shoot those. So like, you better make those. Or better come off the rim soft. He's making them this year, and credit to him. He had it a little bit last year, but he didn't have it the first 2 years. Being able to make that 8 to 10 foot, 12-foot floater, you get into the paint, guy works his ass off to get in front of you. You're not going to win every single battle, but you got to be able to score that, especially being a smaller guard. Really impressed with him in that regards. That Dusty Stromer's made a big jump from last year. He's shooting 55%, 10 of 18, playing 20 minutes a game, 6 of 12 from 3. Obviously, that's 50%. He's made all but 5 of his free throws, mixing in 4 rebounds a game. I know it's only 7.8, but he looks way more confident. Yeah. He looks bigger, and at first glance, like, well, people expect you to gain like 20 pounds. Sometimes your frame is not going to give you that.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially basketball players. Like, the heaviest I ever was my freshman year. I was like 209, but I was, you know what I mean? Yeah. But like, that was a good 6-7 pounds that I put on that summer just from lifting and stuff. And I was usually 205 to that range. but you can put on like legit strength, and you can just see it in his face a little bit, and just how he's moving, and then how he's catching on the wing and seeking shots, and he's not turning down stuff. Looks way better than he did last year. I know it's early, but looks confident, springy, tough. He's mixing in rebounds. So hats off to him. He's having a great, sophomore start to his year, or, whatever. So overall, man, all these guys have had a great start this season. This club is terrific. They're fun to watch. And again, it's the camaraderie, the chemistry, the way the ball pings.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrific. You know what I mean? And like, how do I say this right? But like Drew's was awesome. But the last year is like, okay, let's come down, get set up, Drew, throw it to you. Know what I mean? Now it's kind of like ping, 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 ball screen. It's a little more livelier. And that's not a knock on Drew Timme. He's all-time leading scorer. One of my favorite players to watch. But it got a little bogged. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just the style. And he scored a ton. And again, I got to make sure I'm saying it the right way. But this team's fun to watch. And they're lively, and guys are cheering for each other, all that stuff. Yeah. And I look for that stuff. I don't just look at the end of the game, who scored and whatever. I'm like, who's, I'm always peeking, like when a guy comes out, like, how's he on the bench? You know what I'm saying? And I let the human nature stuff go too. I'm never like be happy all the time. Like sometimes you're allowed to be pissed off a little bit. You're allowed to sulk a little bit. That's what I don't like, when sometimes, people think the other's like, have a better attitude. It's like, well, he pissed off, he came out. Like, it's okay. It's not like he stomped off, and he can have a little droopy shoulders and like a scowl face for 2 minutes, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's happy they just came out of the basketball game. This club has it figured out. Let's, points per game, 95, field goal percentage, 51. Anytime you're over 50, it's great. But if you're in the 47s, it's still great. 37 from three, which is absolutely terrific as a club. If you're in the 40s as a club, you're deadly. Yeah. Especially with the volume that we shoot. Here's one of the bigger numbers. 9 made threes a game, which is huge. But free throws. Remember last year and the year before, everybody bitched, and that was like a topic on every one of our shows. What do you do to make the free throws? And I used to be like, I don't know. You just tell them to shoot them better. Almost 80% as a club. Yeah. 74, 93. And the context of that is 2 of those games were close games where they had to make them down the stretch, where they were fouling on purpose to try to extend the game. San Diego State, Arizona State. Yeah. So that number's really good when you consider that. It's not just, there were blowouts and no pressure, and you just, we're playing a shitty team and there's fouling. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're shooting 80 because it doesn't matter. It's like, no, we had 2 of these games. We had to make free throws down the stretch, and our guys are doing that. Rebounds a game, +5, which is a great number. You theoretically, a lot of clubs are like, we want to be +10. That's really hard to do. Yeah. But if you're in the +5s, +6, +7s, you're having a great year. So it's been a great start. 20 assists a game, which is absolutely terrific. Only 9 turnovers, so 2-1 as a club. I talked about that earlier, just as an individual. But if you're 2-1 as a club, you're really rolling. And our guys are just, playing the right way, and it's fun to watch. And all the guys I mentioned earlier are having a great start to the season. I think Ben Gregg's going to get it turned on. I
was going to say, is this stat right? He hasn't made a 3 in the game?
Yeah, he's 0 for 7. Yeah. Just hasn't made one. He'll knock him down.
Yeah,
it looks
for sure.
Good, looks good coming off his hand. And I think the ones early, the Arizona State game, I don't think he didn't play particularly well. But he's looking over his shoulder. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you just got to let it go and trust yourself that you're going to make one, and, make sure you're taking the right ones too. He had one in the second half that he had a pick and pop, and then Graham popped, and it was supposed to go to Ben. And that was the one I was like, that'd have been a big one for him to be able to knock that down. But overall hustle and all this stuff that he normally does is great. But, once he makes one, it'll snowball, because he is a capable 3-point shooter, and he's had some big games for us from the 3-point line in the past. And again, that's another element that's difficult to guard, especially when it's a, quote unquote bench guy. It's like, no, that guy checks in and he's your reserve. You still have to get out to him at the 3-point line. You know what I mean? So your backups that are usually in the game at the same time, they better study the scouting report. So overall, like I said, our splits look terrific. 95 points a game, 4-0, huge test coming up in Atlanta. So obviously we're playing Long Beach tonight, whatever, make it of it whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll talk about Atlantis on Monday or Tuesday, and give a breakdown of who we might play. I'll do a breakdown of each. So then if we need to throw it in the trash, we can, you know, if we do lose or something like that, but
Right.
I'll get a potential breakdown. And the biggest one, everybody's obviously looking as if we play Arizona and Tommy Lloyd. So I hope that happens, but I'm not a fan of it just because I like Tommy and we all love Tommy and it's just not fun playing your buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, in the future, we're going to be playing Leon Rice, Buddy, you know what I mean? And with Boise State, it's just not fun. And I don't know. I get some people are like, I like to compete against my friends. I'm like, yeah, but when you can put, you know, these are all established coaches and programs, obviously, but like, what if you like blow out your friend's team and then they go like on a spiral? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just, and then they get fired or something. Not that that would happen, but that's like a reality thing. And then, or what if something weird happens and your players get into it and then you have this awkward, you're going to protect your guys. Well, your guy did this. Well, you know, I don't know, you know, and it's like, well, that stuff can happen too. You know, and then just the familiarity with like kind of knowing each other's secrets a little bit and you don't want to expose them to other clubs. Right. So, but it'll be interesting.
Though, yeah, for sure.
It'll be fun. And it's a great venue. It's a weird venue. It's in a ballroom and stuff like that. And I don't know if a lot of people have been to Atlantis. It's fun, but it's also kind of old.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's old. And how do I say this the right way? It's really expensive just to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's not worth the price. And I'm not a cheapskate, but some of it's like, this looks like it got built in like 1992 and you're charging me, you know what I mean? You start going like, okay, there's a beach over there that's free, but I have to pay to like go down the water slides. You know what I mean? You're like, okay. And then they have a VAT tax, which is nuts. If anybody's been there, like you'll get a Coke and it'll be like $6.99 and then it's 20% on top. And then they want you to tip. Someone's like $10 for like a bottle of like Pepsi or whatever.
Jeez.
And after a while, you're just like, holy shit, man. Like,
gosh,
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, okay, where's the Dunkin' Donuts at? Let's just go have breakfast there.
Well, they're really pushing ads online to get people to go to the Battle for Atlantis.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's gonna be an interesting 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I mean, this club's it's fun to watch. Like when you said that, like I was like thinking like, what's a good analogy? I was just like, it was really fun watching Ichiro hit singles all the time, but it is so much more fun to watch homers. Yeah. And like watching like
good way.
Hit like just seeing him bounce the ball around and like get it out and hit threes and like KB just like spotting up and shooting up like a deep three, and the floaters of like from Nolan are just like I just love it. Like it's fun watching this team. I haven't had this much fun watching a Zags team in a long time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
The Perimeter will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
I just love it. Like it's fun watching this team. I haven't had this much fun watching a Zags team in a long time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Timmy years were great. All these clubs are fun. They have their own special little deals, but the ball is just absolutely pinging with this club, and it's fun to watch. And if you're a basketball person, even if you're not a Zag fan, it's like, oh, that's good hoops. You know what I mean? So, I
mean, I feel like we're getting major respect from even fans of other teams.
I mean, we're at AP2, college poll, or the coach poll, 3, Ken Palm, which is one of the most important. I've talked about it in seasons past, and I'll get into it later as the season goes on about Ken Palm rankings, what it means for your NCAA seeding. We're number 2. Andy Katz has us in the Power 37. I haven't even heard of this one yet, but number 2. I don't mean that disrespectful, but he's a college basketball guy for years and understands his is based on analytics. So what I'm saying, if you're number 2 in that Power 37, that means you're doing all right.
Yeah.
You got any listener questions?
Yeah, we got a couple of listener questions, and the first one comes from Ginny Lou. She asks, who is going to be the top scorer at the end of the year?
Good question. If I was going to bet, Khalif is Braden and Graham are at 14.5. Khalif battles at 14.3. I'd probably say Graham just because of the touches he'll get inside. Strong candidates will be Khalif and Braden.
Yeah,
but I don't think it matters.
Yeah,
and we kind of evolved to. We have 5 guys averaging double figures. We've evolved from like my years and Hargo's years and Blake and Dan, where there was like, throw it to one guy. It's like, it's good basketball, but you don't win as much.
Right.
If you have a bad night, and I've had bad nights and, you don't win or you barely win when it's like, well, maybe if we share the ball, Adam, then maybe somebody else can score. But yeah, it's a little bit different now. The flow's better.
I mean, KB, Graham, and Braden are at 58 and 57 points. Like, that's a great spot to be in.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Jason Frank asks, what are we going to do when we play teams that have big bigs like UConn or Purdue, maybe Auburn? And I don't know if this is a strange comment at the end of here. It seems like we just can't compete against some of these big, strong dudes. And I just don't know if there's a case for that right now. Yeah.
So he's saying like ultra 7-footer types is what he's saying. I mean, we've seen it. We should have beat Purdue the first time in Maui last year, and we had a good plan against them. Graham was fine. Klingon didn't really kill us. I think it was the UConn was the style, not just the big kid inside. I mean, if my memory serves, he probably had like 12 and 8, but they played just kind of like us, wherever the ball's pinging, wherever the ball needs to go, it's going to go. I think with Graham, he's strong enough and tall enough to guard those type of guys. We obviously have a double team package. Every team does. Braden has gotten better defensively. And then I think the one that would be a little bit sneaky, I know it sounds funny height wise, but like overall strength and athleticism, Mike Ajayi can push guys around, and he's like a unique athlete. Yeah. So I think we are prepared for it. But is anybody in college basketball used to playing like 7-2 and inside and kind of, what I mean? Yeah. So it's a fair question, logical question. But I think we do have the personnel, the plan, the scheme to at least combat some of that stuff. But also, like, I'm not dumb enough to be like, well, we would have beat Zach Edey. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different, unique thing. So it's a great question. I think we're prepared for it with our 2 bigs inside. And then, like I said, Mike Ajayi, and then we have a double team package. But, the counter to that is like, well, they got to play against our mobile bigs. Yeah. You know what I mean? Braden, Graham, you know what I mean? Pick and pop, Ben, you know what I mean? So you can't always have the perfect lineup for everything. And then also, I say his name wrong, and I'm going to learn it. Dejane is like 7-1, isn't he? Yeah. For us, what if why can't he play 5 minutes a half against one of those guys and just play defense? That's a possibility as well. I mean, he played at Real Madrid last year. I know he's raw, but he's 7-1. Yeah. So there's that.
That's true.
So I think overall, we have the personnel to combat most other teams' personnels and schemes, but it's always difficult to predict what you're going to do against 7-2 and really good or something like that.
I think we're better suited than we have been in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. Yeah, an overall foul pressure situation, not having to worry about that. I don't know why I've said Drew Timmy like 4 times on this podcast, but you didn't want him getting in foul trouble. So like defensively, if we played a team like that, it was like you had to kind of hide him because he had to go score 28 a game or whatever he was scoring.
Yeah.
And we don't have to worry about that this year. You know what I mean? In a good way. Like, okay, Graham, you can go play. But if you get in foul trouble or vice versa, Braden, we're okay. You still score the ball, post ups and touches inside.
Yeah.
It's not as, relying on one post player to score than having to guard the other good post. That's a matchup issue is what I'm trying to get at. So overall, great, San Diego State win. Fun games coming up. We'll break them down Monday or Tuesday. I'll talk about all the potential matchups at Battle for Atlantis. And then we'll talk about what it's going to look like against Kentucky and UConn in further episodes. We'll really break that down. It's a big stretch for us. It'll be fun to watch. It'll be fun to, root for, our ascension in college basketball. And it's going to be a great test, especially that UConn game down the stretch at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
I'll talk about a lot. I'll talk about my experiences at Madison Square Garden. Have some interesting ones in there, some good and some bad at the pro level and the college level. But again, thank you to our sponsors, McGillivray Environmental, Idaho Central Credit Union, New Love Coffee. Please continue to listen. We appreciate it. See you next week.
Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear. First thing I'ma drink is a Rainier beer. I ain't no lush, shut up, hush. This is how I zone out. I'ma take this check, put it on me. I'm a much better boss than an employee. Just cause you got time, don't waste time. It's about time, feel the sunshine. You got time, but don't waste time. It's go time. Get up, get down. The time's right now. Turn up, turn down. I don't even know how. Yes, sir. I'm on 100 now. Mess around and find out. Get up, get up. Get up, get up. Yeah, I'm a much better boss than an employee. I'm an employee because I go OD on a BE.
The podcast intro song is Get Up by Jinx Universe. Listen to his music on Spotify and follow him on social media at I am Jinx Universe. Produced locally in Spokane, Washington at Spocast.